Hello, everyone. And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to our live stream. I'm Wotan. You probably know me in game by Wotanson. And with me, I have Toastrz.
Hey, I'm Toastrz, design team member and currently the lead designer on the Shatters rework.
So he will be revealing stuff today about Shatters. We will show lots of stuff, hopefully on video. So stay tuned. So Toastrz, tell us what can they expect from the new Shatters.
All right, well, one thing you'll see today, not before long, is some very, very early footage of the Shatters rework. Okay, right away, I see some people are talking about a mic echo, so maybe we should. Is that visible for everyone?
Is it better?
How does everyone sound now?
Still very, very echoey, says Apple Lord X. But is it Toastrz or is it me?
Sounds like specifically me.
Okay.
Because the audio stuff did not show that. That's great.
Okay. We'll try to figure that out. Try to figure that out. Oh, I probably know what the issue is. The issue is that we are on a call, Toasters. And by doing so...
I definitely don't want to sound like a Walmart intercom. I know what those sound like. They're awful.
I actually know how those sound as well. Okay, so I'm try to say something now.
Yes, actually is how the Theraball sounds. I mean, it's a pretty tiny chamber. It's got to be pretty echoey in there. Just saying.
Try to say something now, Toasters.
Oh, people are saying sounds good. All right, still that way, hopefully. No more Walmart intercom. No more high-tech terrorism.
I know what it is. It's your sound is entering my microphone.
All right, cool. It's afraid my mic broke in there.
No, it's a problem on my end.
Cool. It's back.
What about now? Is it good now?
This is great. This is the stuff that no amount of audio tech just seems to find.
Okay. Fixed it. Yay! So the whole idea here, besides us showing you stuff from Shatters and lore, is for you guys to make questions. So please ask Toasters away. We also have here with us, but is staying hidden. But it's Fiddlo. And Toasters, I'm hearing myself on your end, I believe.
Well, okay, I think I know what the problem is. When I hear you, it's coming back through, I suppose, my mic now. And I'm hearing myself. This feels like a speech jammer. That's great.
So bear with us, guys. It's the first time we're doing this with this system. Okay. should have fixed it by now. Toasters, are you there, man?
Hey, yes.
You can hear me well now, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Just hope that's not producing an echo, but guessing it is.
Linky is saying, "Whoa, real toasters."
Yeah, this is actually an official face reveal. Uh,
Yes.
Go easy on me.
Okay. Selak John is asking, do questions have to pertain to chatters? No, they can be about lore in general. Because this guy, he is our lore master.
Very kind way of putting it. It's definitely a team thing. But
Yeah,
yeah, happy to answer anything or anything Shatters. I know the interest kind of goes both ways.
yeah. Please take it away, Toasters, with
Yeah,
the questions. I'll be handling the video reveal part.
absolutely. All right, let's see here. New Shatters longer or shorter than the current? That's a tough thing to say because right now, like when I say right now, I mean the current in-game Shatters, the length varies a lot based on group size, DPS, that sort of thing. I would probably say on average longer, just because the bosses are not going to be standing in place for 30 seconds, and the dungeon will have a bit more meat to it. But obviously not planned to be some grueling 45-minute thing. It's not going to compare to the whole process of, say, closing a realm to the end of O3. Well, there's a good one. Will there be static layout or dynamic? That's a good question because it's both. So the current Shatters is completely static. It is a single map file loaded in every time. The only randomization is some pre-made enemy formations. What we're doing this with this rework is we're going for a modular approach where, okay, let's say you got the village. You start in a village and you go around to switches and all that, but there are multiple village maps. So on each run, you're going to have to go through something different. Of course, you can still memorize the ones there, but it's not the exact same each time. Same for the castle. That will have, for instance, 4 wings to it, but those wings can come from a pool of over 8 rooms. So there's a lot of different permutations to the dungeon compared to just a single one every single time.
Well, you were saying some stuff that even I didn't know. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Let's see. Is the avatar going to be changed? Yes. We'll be reviewing him. I'll admit there's no work done on it yet other than conceptual stuff, since it's not the top priority compared to the dungeon itself. But yeah, we do plan to revise the Shatters boss, do some more with it, since right now it's not exactly a huge throw ride with him. The patterns kind of going over and over. To give a little peek into what he'll be like, we'll probably make his set piece a little larger and obviously add more attack variety, but also use his different summons in some more interesting ways, hopefully. Don't want to spill too much on that. Obviously, all subject to change, but we do want to make the fight more of a interesting back and forth. Let's see some more questions here. Will there be some sort of secret switch and other secrets like that? Yes and no. Uh, the secret switch itself won't exist because the castle section isn't based on switches anymore. Once we get the footage going, you'll get a peek at what the core mechanic for the castle will be now. But we do want the Shatters to definitely have secrets, and we already have quite a bit planned. Now, obviously, it wouldn't be a secret if I told you, but there will be a lot of interesting, rare, secret, exciting stuff to look out for. So definitely keep your eyes peeled. Is tablet going to be nerfed? No plans for that. We already revised it back when Secluded Thicket was released and it got changed. I don't believe we touched on it since, and we're generally pretty content with it, so no plans to nerf that or really change it in any way.
Fresh Pickles
Cool.
is asking, will there be a tea room?
Will there be a tea room? Best answer would be no. There is still based on the core three bosses of Forgotten Sentinel, Twilight Archmage, Forgotten King, of course. There will be some rare, beefier enemies that you could almost call a mini boss, and we'll be spreading out the drops of, say, the ST set, the Twilight Archmage set. So I guess you could call that to some extent a tea room, but I wouldn't say in the formal way, no. I've seen a couple people ask, what is the lore of the stone enemies? What are the stone paladins, etc., lore-wise? Good questions, interesting ones. And we do actually flesh that out a bit. You'll have to wait and see, but we are definitely expanding on the stone enemy theme to justify it sensibly. And I think we got a pretty cool plan for it, in fact. How are you planning to deal with the skill issue most players have? A little bit of get good, and you should be just fine.
Just dodge.
Will the drop rates be changed? Yes. The dungeon, well, I'll say right now, the dungeon is definitely getting harder than what it is currently, which isn't saying a whole lot. And the dungeon will also be getting at least a little longer. So the current really bad drop rates will definitely not stand. We'll be improving those most likely, of course, revising the entirety of the loot tables, and also there will be new items beyond just the three core UTs.
Look what I have
All right,
done.
okay, cool. We have the footage rolling now. This, what you're seeing here, is an extremely, and I mean extremely, early build of Shatters. This was never even on a testing server. This was purely on my local environment, and this is just a map shape test, which, as you can see, uses a bunch of recycled assets. It looks awful. There's nothing interesting about it, but I thought it would be interesting to give a look at what the very earliest stages of a dungeon look like from the ground up. Yeah, it does look uglier than the old Shatters. You're right. Um, so this is really just to test if the map gen shapes work, the general goals of it. You can see there's like sideways areas that weren't gendered in there, and here I have a very early enemy test of a slight touch up to the Stone Paladin enemy. Now, I want to stress right here that everything you're going to be seeing, even in the later builds, this is all very early stuff. This is just how the process goes of early tests, testing a couple mechanics at a time. You can see this room is using the old assets. Those will not exist anymore. They look awful. Um, this is just a basic enemy test. You can see it does have a new sprite there, but yet to be animated at this time. It does have animations now, and I think you'll see those later. Now, I believe this footage will show a couple more, again, very early enemies. And as we go through this, I just do want to stress that this is all very, like, you can see the completely untextured tiles there with that horrible splicing between them. This is just the very beginning of how a dungeon is made, and you'll be seeing in the later edits that this has come far from what you're seeing here. Now, what I'm showing here for a moment, this was me testing the idle behavior of some enemies. So some new enemies in the first section of the map are the villagers. There's quite a few of them. There's like 12, I believe. And they have some idle behavior to make them feel more organic, where when they spawn, they'll choose between idling around, doing some little tasks, or even patrolling along routes, sort of like the Calamity Crab, but I promise they're not that dangerous. This is, you can see the shot patterns here are pretty straightforward, nothing really fancy. This was a, again, early test of state progression. Here you've got, I believe, these guys are the Hollow Huntsmen and the Huntsman Trackers. These are your typical archer enemies, stay at a long range, use a bow. Again, they're not animated. They're recycling a projectile at this stage. But yeah, this is just the early stages of enemy designs getting formulated. The room you're actually seeing me test this in right now is part of Act 3, which is replacing the Royal Bridge section, which it is currently. Instead, you've got this Grand Hall. And I see now we're cutting back to a slightly more formulated version of the village area. This was a test for just a building shape, some art. I believe that art has actually changed since then. It says the grass and dirt, and well, most of these assets have been changed since then. But this is just how the implementation process goes. This was to also help, on the art side to visualize what's going on. You can see there, I implemented the flame wrong, so it was upside down. It looks like dripping goo instead. That flame is actually red now anyway. But you can see over time just taking a little more shape. Still got that line there between where the room generates, but a little more coming together here. A proper bridge, for instance. While this footage rolls for a bit, I think I've explained for the most part what you'll be seeing now. So let me look at a couple more questions. Will there be a lava maze still? If I have anything to say about it, we'll see. Maybe something rare. Who knows? Please give us void tops and shatters. Yeah, I don't want to confirm anything absolutely, but there will almost certainly, let's say 90% chance, be tier 13 weapons and tier 14 armors and shatters. The difficulty here is definitely meant to be very high, um, and I think it justifies those at the very least. If there's a lava maze, will the sus maze return? Probably not that one. I think that one's going to stay in the original where it belongs. It had its time. You can see there was a big map gen bug with the way hallways were patching themselves together. That's fixed, but when you ever see those totally untextured, like beige tan tiles, that's map gen splicing there. See, the rooms are totally ajar. Why are there letters on the floor? Also a good question. Those were notes to myself for what those rooms are. So, like you saw the like the letter O, that was to mark that in the map file, that's the observatory room. As I mentioned earlier, for anyone who wasn't here, the maps in the castle will have 4 wings where you need to do objectives in each. But those 4 rooms can be randomized each time out of a pool of about 8. So you're not going to see the same rooms every time, and they can be different orders with different contents, and there's just lots of permutations. I think it's like 2,000 some, if you were to really do the math on it that rigidly. So those letters there were to mark what the rooms are, since they actually aren't any different in their content right now, but I wanted to make sure each of them was capable of generating. So those were notes to myself. Those letters were different every time. Will the pretzel shots come back for second? Archimage pretzel shots. What? I'll be honest, man. I don't know what the pretzel shots are. Feel free to clarify that, but can either confirm or deny right now, I suppose. Will it be easier to solo? Like no DPS barriers? Definitely no DPS barriers. When I have some Sentinel fights start with here, kill these towers in 30 seconds, or you cannot do anything. No rigid DPS walls, no explicit reason this wouldn't be soloable, but the difficulty will be high. There's definitely merit to having people to ideally split up instead of just grouping together. But yeah, it should be totally soloable and should hopefully be a satisfying challenge to do that if you take it on.
And guys, what about lore? You're making lots of. I mean, I get that you're interested into Shatters and the
Yeah,
whole
open floor
development thing.
questions as well. I definitely understand that the enthusiasm is focusing a lot on the footage and the Shatters content itself, but we are open to those questions as well. Let's see, will overspawns be a thing? Yeah, no. Just no. In fact, I should mention now that the Titanums, which are renamed, by the way, they're called Stone Monoliths now, they don't respawn at all. They start with a couple stone enemies and they circle around, do a little ritual dance, but they do not respawn, period, let alone overspawn, because respawning enemies are usually not the most satisfying to fight. Oh, something here. What you're seeing in this footage is the stone enemies capable of camouflaging, where they'll start out idle and they'll be in poses those textures don't exist yet, and then they'll make a slight movement and then wake up randomly. So some of these enemies are capable of waking up and attacking. Obviously, it'll be more
Ooh.
visible when there's actual animations for it. Those don't exist in this footage, but that was a function test for it and should lead to some unnerving moments when you're going through an area with lots of stone enemies, not knowing who's ready to attack and who's just going to chill there.
Toasters, Neo Bang Rotten G is asking, how long will the Shatters take to complete?
Really hard to say that right now. It's not feature complete yet, so it's tough to give an estimate. Definitely longer than the original, but not as long as an entire O3 path. I think I mentioned that earlier.
I,
Um,
I guess that's
I had
enough.
to, if I had to eyeball it, like in a standard, reasonably sized group, let's say 15 minutes, that's really, really rough. Again, totally subject to change.
Yeah. Please, guys, bear in mind that this is work in progress. This is a very early stage that we're showing.
Yeah, in case the lack of walls and the ugly old assets didn't tip you off. Let's see, what will be the new intended difficulty of the Shatters compared to all other chat chain, all other current Exaltation dungeons? Not as tough as O3, but not far off. That's the goal. This will probably be approximately the second hardest dungeon. Again, that's a hard thing to quantify, but this will probably be tougher than Lost Halls to some extent. Um, but again, not everything's going to be O3 Celestial.
Brillo Quill is asking, in regards to lore, the switches are going to be replaced by these gem-looking things?
Where was that question? Oh, I see. The switch going to no, that was well, actually, you're partially right. I should talk about this footage now. So this is a system we're trying out right now. This is unfortunately an early version of it. They have some really cool particle effects going now, but I don't think those are on footage. Um, where basically it's taking this. It's currently using a crystal as a placeholder, but that's not what it'll actually be. And it's a sort of payload style. You think Overwatch, TF2, that sort of thing. Basically bringing along some sort of object along a series of waypoints that are called magi conductors. The one you saw there is the red one, which you can see it's painfully slow. It is not that slow anymore. It was a function test. Um, but there's going to be 4 different colors of this untempered magic that you'll take along, and in the meantime, you'll defend it from enemies. What you're seeing here is also a function test for Act 3. This is right before the Forgotten King fight. And instead of that weird lava bridge thing, what's happening here is you have an objective in the middle, which is currently using a Lost Century Spike to show damage. And enemies are coming out of those hallway chambers from the 4 corners. Now, the only functional one right now is the knight, and he's fairly basic. I'll explain him in a moment. But you also see crossbowmen, gladiators, thaumaturges with magical spells. Boy, I'm taking a beating there. Yes, the spawn rates obviously aren't balanced. This was more to function to test general behavior and also does the system itself work right? Did the enemies spawn? Do the switches move places? That sort of thing.
I was just saying I love thaumaturgy.
So you'll see those objective points, the lost centuries, are appearing in different locations. This is one of the things where lack of visualization definitely makes it a little hard to tell what's going on, but hopefully clarify to some extent that this will be like a battle arena thing where you want to generally try to focus your attention between defending the points and attacking them while also making sure you don't get overwhelmed because the enemies are all built on pushing you away from the goal. So we'll definitely want to try to split up and okay, you drag this guy, get his attention, kill him. We'll focus here on the objective.
Lamtelina is asking, is it possible to rush parts of the dungeon?
Yes, to some extent. We definitely want to accommodate that because I think, especially giving classes like Rogue an actual use in the endgame is pretty interesting. For example, in the village area, if you want, someone could try to go around this much larger map, which will have more contents than you're seeing now, and try to get some switches ahead of other people. Also, in the castle, if you want, you could try to jump ahead to the end and activate the source generator, which allows the magic to begin getting pulled along. Now, you'd still have to defend it from enemies, so it would be difficult. But if anything, that could enable usage of, say, multiple rogues. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how some strategies form. We're trying to think of how different classes can respond based on what we've seen from current raid meta, discords, as well as small groups, guilds, solo players. Just trying to keep all perspectives in mind there and see how will people play around with this. How will they try to optimize this? That's something we want to be more and more mindful as the end game gets a lot more understandable to us.
Almuth is asking, lore-wise, will the void entity be connected to the dungeon more?
Yes. Now, we know the void entity obviously has a lot of relevance in the lore, and we don't want to get to the point where it's played out either, but the void entity is very strongly tied to the lore of the Shatters, as you'll continue to see through the current campaign with the books. That's something we're really happy with and should answer a lot of questions based on the backstory of the Shatters. We're very, very excited as that keeps releasing.
Zarek is asking, will Nigel still die to this? I will answer that myself. We will all die to this.
Yeah, I mean, Nigel especially, but yeah.
Tom Food is asking, is teleport enabled in this new Shatters?
No, player teleporting won't be enabled. Generally, what that can happen is leads to issues where, say, okay, a boss room closes, so people don't just back out. And then if everyone teleports out, you can't get back in. It also tends to accommodate leeching, but in places such as, say, the Twilight Archmage area, where you start in the boss room, almost tomb style in a way, come to think of it, um, and go towards and bring things back, teleporting wouldn't be of much merit anyway. It's not too long to get from one point to another, as long as you're staying within relevant gameplay range.
Okay. Let's see. We are
This one,
just. I was just saying that we are going for the final questions.
oh yes, I didn't notice the time. We do have to wrap this up a bit.
Yeah.
Let's see, how many people are involved into the sprite work for the Shatters? A couple people. This isn't done like a UGC thing. This is entirely with in-house art. Same people as, say, the recent reconstructions. We've also brought in some new talent. We're really, really excited for the art direction to continue. I think the footage at this point has looped, so you're starting to see the older builds with unchanged art, way less assets. But yeah, we're really, really happy with the art direction so far. Not even everything is implemented yet. Much more is being made, but we're really happy with it, and we hope you will too.
Yep. So just to wrap up, one final question, guys.
Yeah, last question. Let's see. Let's say, is the Archmage hot underneath the hoodie? That's a perfect closing question. No, I'm not answering that. I'm gonna leave that one with the imagination. Some things no amount of deep lore can touch on that. I'm sorry. This picture's like the handsome Squidward. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of people asking about any new UTs, gem bracer change. Everything about items, the answer is probably yes. Yes, there will be new items. Yes, gemstone and most likely bracer will get some balance changes. Not planning to touch the crown. I'll spoil that now. We're pretty happy with where that is. But yeah, new items, new UTs, and changes to the existing ones that
Two
are really
final
good.
questions. Is Craig tied to this? Craig is always tied to everything. I mean,
Yeah, Craig is. I'm gonna.
it's
Okay,
always
close your.
Craig's fault.
Yeah, plug your ears if you don't want a spoiler. But Craig actually is the Forgotten King. It's kind of the big reveal at the end. He takes the crown off and lets shattering figures come to the blue sprite. Um, it's a really cool moment. Don't tell your friends that they haven't watched this because we want some people to be surprised by it. But really, if you know the lore, you should have seen that coming. So
Okay, guys. It was really great to be here with you. Thank you, Toasters, for being with us today. We will return.
absolutely,
We will return next Tuesday with also a very special stream. Hope to see you guys there. Don't forget to follow us on our social media, but especially here on Twitch. We will return.
yep.
Stay safe, guys. Bye bye. See you.
So yeah.